What's up guys, Bradley's Garage here. We have a 2011 Audi B8. We're going to be doing the wheel bearing replacement. I'm going to show you the quickest, easiest, simplest method to get this done without taking unnecessary parts off the car. So here's the new stuff. This is what it looks like. FAG bearing. This is the same thing that came on the car from the factory. So we have a brand new one, and they give you the hardware that you need because all this stuff is single-use bolts. So let's jump in. All right, step one, pop off the center cap. I just use a little hook tool, pull it off. All right, this axle nut uses a 19mm hex. It's easier to do while the car's on the ground. So I'm just gonna get it up and break it because it's really tight. Jesus Christmas. Like I said, it's tight. Next step, take the wheel off. Okay, as you can see, the axle bolt is loose, so we'll just leave that for later. Next step is to get the carrier caliper assembly out of your way so you can take the rotor off. So I like to just turn the wheel to the right, gives you a little bit of access here to those bolts. So next step is, you got your caliper here. You don't have to take it off here. We're going to take it off on the carrier bolts. So these are 21mm. All right, so you can just slide the caliper right off, and then you can just actually turn it upside down, and I just set it right here, and it just sits there, and that'll be your holder for your caliper. Oh, the guy before us obviously busted off the hold screw for the rotor, so we got a new one. We'll put that in when we put it back together. So rotor comes off. Okay, so now we're going to take the bearing assembly off. It's 4 bolts. They're accessed from the back. So next step is we're going to take off the bearing. So there's 4 bolts, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. So I like to just spray a little penetrating spray on those just to get them soaking while we're getting ready. And then let's move to the back side. The back side uses a triple square, size 12. So some guys call it a XZN, but I call it a triple square 12. So that'll be from the back. Okay. First one. So everything you can access with the half shaft in place, so you don't have to move anything. Everything's accessible. Okay, now we're going to the front 2. It's right here. Okay, now we'll go up here. There's one more right there. Okay. So sometimes the bearing is stuck onto the spindle. So sometimes you got to put a little bit of heat so you can get a little torch, heat this up a little bit. What I like to do is put this inside the head of the bolts. Since we're replacing this and this anyway, there's nothing we can really do to damage it. So we can go under here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so basically just stick this little punch inside the head, and then you can just give it a few taps until you break it free. Just do that on all four and you should be good to go. All right, so everything's loose now. I'm just gonna use my little right angle Milwaukee to spin these the rest of the way out. They're just basically hand tight. So now that we have the four bolts, everything's loose, we can pull off the axle bolt, pull it out completely. All right. And then this is just gonna slide right out, just like that. And it's a little, you know, it's on the half shaft axle, so it has some teeth there. Okay. So some guys take out the ABS sensor. I mean, if you're careful, you shouldn't mess it up, but you know, just be careful. All right, so the next step is, obviously we need to get these two pieces separated. This is pressed on to the hub. So the easiest way, since you're like us, you don't have a lot of, you know, crazy specialty tools, then we went down to the local auto store and just got a adjustable 2-arm puller here, and then we have the bearing splitter tool here. So this is a 4 1/4 inch. So step one, we got a little socket. It's like a 34 millimeter. It fits perfectly onto the hub. That's the inner metal circle here, the inner one. This is part of the bearing, so we want to be just onto this. So we lay that there, it's pressing on the metal. Got a little piece of flat there, and then we're just going to hook our arm under each side. Okay, now we got that off. Like I said, just get a socket that fits this inner side that will fit through here, and you'll have no problem, you know, supporting it. So now of course it comes apart with the other race still on there. Okay. And just so you guys know, I mean, unless you can get away with, if you have a huge bearing splitter that will reach, but obviously this is not long enough, so you need one that's going to spread out even farther in order to use just this. So we got that off. Now what we need to do is get our bearing splitter underneath the edge of the bearing race. Okay, so we just got it under the lip. Initially we grabbed here, pulled it up just a little bit, and then it slipped off. So now we got it under the actual back of the race. So it's only held on by a 1/2 inch down there. Up here, it's not tight on there. It only sets down there. So should be able to pop off now. Stubborn, but when you have a failed one and it gets hot, it's gonna, you know, start to stick on there. Like I said, it's only held on by that last little 1/2 inch there. So let's get this cleaned up, and while we're at it, let's remove our broken off rotor stay bolt. So we'll grab that and see if we can't get it out. Okay, so if you guys have a good size vise, then you can get away with doing it in a vise and you won't need a press. Ours is just a little bit shallow. As you can see, we're not quite halfway, so I'd like to be right in the middle in order to put the two pieces together, put on a socket on the end, and then press it. Otherwise, if it's not perfectly centered, then it's going to go and feed a little bit crooked. So we're going to use the press for this part. But like I said, if you have a pretty good size vise that's a little bit deeper of a jaw, then you'll be able to use a vise to press it on, because it doesn't take that much force. All right, so we're gonna get it in position. Just remember that the thicker side is facing up. This is your ABS ring. that's there. So we're going to set that in place, get it on, and then I like to just push, you know, the actual race itself. So we have a little square piece that's only touching the bearing race itself and not the tone ring. So as you can see, it, you know, just depends on how the bearing's sitting. So we want to go and press it all the way down. Just go till it seats and then release. Alright, so we have our 4 brand new bolts. What I like to do is when this is loose out of your way, it's easier to reach from behind and put the bolts in. Sometimes when the half shaft is right back in the center, it makes it a little challenging to get past the rubber of the axle boot. Okay, so we have all of our bolts, so we push them through, so I just back them off a little bit, and then we're ready to insert our hub. So I just grab the axle, I lift it up a little bit, and just give it a little back and forth till you find the spline, and then once it goes in, it's ready. And then this can rotate independently of everything else, so you can get your holes lined up and then get one started. Okay. Okay, so once you get them all hand tight, then we got the torque wrench set at 59 foot-pounds or 80 Newton meters. So I'm just gonna do the bottom, and then I'm gonna do a diagonal up to the top. So after you do the initial torque, I just make a little mark at 12 o'clock on all of them. Well, I guess on the bottom it's easier to do 6 o'clock, so we'll do a 6 o'clock mark. 6 o'clock. Okay, so we're just going to rotate them 90 more. That'll be the final torque. I can't go anymore. So, all right, so they say 90, but man, it's like after you tighten 60 foot-pounds, 59 foot-pounds, and then try to move it, like I'm only using a 3/8, but dude, they are so freaking tight. They weren't that tight to come off, so I'm telling you, I'm gonna call it good on that. We have our new axle bolt. You can thread that in. This gets tightened to 200 Newton meters, which is like 146.5. So we can do that once we get the rotor and stuff back on. It makes it easier to lock the rotor in position. All right, let's get the rotor on. Got a new bolt for the rotor. So I think the last guy probably over tightened this thing and snapped the head off. That's why it was broken off in there. This doesn't need to be that tight. You basically just give it a little snug. That's it. The wheel sits here, plus the lugs are what hold this tight, so this is just to keep the hole centered. Okay, now we gotta torque them. Torque setting is 196, so about 144.5 foot-pounds. So after you get your carrier tightened, I just put a little punch inside there to hold it, and then we're going to do the initial torque of the 147. Okay, just going to mark the bolt. We're going to put the wheel back on, put the car on the ground. So that's why we know where we're at. Okay, we got the car back on the ground. We marked it at 12 o'clock. Everything was torqued from the previous step. So now we're going to, they say to go to 180, but we're gonna try. I think it's too hard, honestly. Okay. I think that's about it. Even with a 5-foot cheater, I mean, I don't know how you're gonna get to 180, so we're leaving it at 90, guys. That's it. Okay, last step. Torque your lugs. All right, pop the cap back on. And we're good, guys. So hopefully you got the motivation to knock it out yourself. I think it's pretty easy, and try to show you the simplest way to do it. Remember, all of these Audis, A4, A5, A6, A7, A8, everything uses the same bearings. So good luck with your project. Take care.